Hello, everyone. So I'm here to respond to what the first two affirmative speakers have already mentioned. So the first thing I'd like to point out is to put a little definition on what we're exactly talking about here. The first affirmative speaker mentioned that data brokers use a lot of this information that they aggregate from a large amount of users in social medias or any other platform. A lot of this information is gathered and then compiled. The key word I want to mention here is compiled. Compiled and then sent out to other businesses. There are rules that are enforced when this information is compiled. So necessarily what these data brokers are passing on to different companies is information about the information. It's metadata. To elaborate on what metadata is, it contains information about data. To elaborate on what metadata is, on a artifact article written by Alex Burson and Larry DeBove, titled Benefits of Metadata Implementing Metadata Management Strategy. They explain how metadata works by saying metadata contains information about data that helps reconcile the difference in meaning technologies such as clients, customers, revenue, sales, and etc. Not only do they tell you what the definitions are and what exactly is happening here, it basically tells you what the information is on information. A simple way to explain this is you take a picture and you want to know when it was taken, it tells you when it was taken. That's the information on the data of the picture, so metadata. That's what basically data brokers use to sell to different companies. Rules are given by the government to prevent, exactly who is what in said metadata in these compiled packets. Moving on. So the question is, who owns this data? A lot of what we mentioned before is when you sign up for a service, there are these terms and conditions. As mentioned by the second affirmative speaker, you were told that there were check marks in place of privacy concerns. I think the question here is that they don't exist, they actually do. The check marks are there for a reason. Rather, even though they're written wordly, I would say that it's more on the end user to clearly read exactly what these terms are meant. So that meaning that these terms still exist for you to protect your privacy, to hide your pictures, to prevent posts from being used in advertisement material. As mentioned by David Knight in Who Owns the Data of the Internet of Things, he states that the contract allows all data to be exchanged in return for incentives such as curated service or a discount. This approach conveys all data usage rights and data title once the user opts in. Essentially saying you are also entitled to privacy, but there is initially, aside from those check-ins, those check marks, you are consenting to the data that you are telling yourself that this is what I'm going to use for this service instead of paying a fee to access Facebook. Say a lot of this information is mainly used for AdSense for different companies to show how they're going to target the correct market. As written by Eric Eldon in his article, An Easy Way to Turn Off All Third-Party Services, he lists a numerous amount of websites that are linked to third-party services and tell you that there's specific ways for you to turn them off. This was a little while back, which meant it was now implemented, but he stated, beyond repeating that Facebook will soon launch a simpler privacy settings, which are due as soon as tomorrow, we will also give you an easy way to turn off all third-party services. So essentially saying that not only were those check marks there in place before, but now they're simplifying it so it's a lot easier to the end user. Again, what I want to clarify here is that this data that's being collected, it's essentially essentially there to just boost the user experience for you to find the right material and then the right advertisement that would interest you the most. If data redistribution or big data selling that didn't exist, you'd be targeted by different ads. They wouldn't know who to target, but businesses still want to make a business, so these ads would be there and it wouldn't be tailored to your needs. And I'm sure one of those ads would be somewhat relevant to help you finding a material item or said item that you would want to purchase, or a product or platform or service. Or maybe perhaps learning about a deal. So even with them saying if you didn't want these collection services done, you can also opt out of them. And as I stated now, these services, these privacy settings were now made a lot simpler. Moving on to, as the second affirmative speaker mentioned, that a lot of this information that you can use based on your credit card information, a lot of these settings, it's quite plain to see that based on these new privacy settings that were already in place, you can easily block off these settings, and you can say that these posts or pictures that you put would be privated or hidden away from certain things that would prevent you from making a purchase, which I find somewhat strange, because if you're going to make such interesting posts to negate what you're trying to achieve, wouldn't it be against your best interest if you wanted to you don't want to promote this type of self-image if you wanted to do something on the contrary, which seems somewhat strange for you to want something on the contrary based on what you're stating. So there lies the issue there. So initially pointing out that not only are privacy settings a lot safer now, they're simpler, they're easier for you to access. By there saying you that also the AdSense is there to provide just a smoother experience. This is why I believe the system in place is fine as it is now.